Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to LabTech. So this is the latest iteration of the Lab Talk series, where we're going to get kind of more in-depth into the technology that we build, what we're doing on a sort of daily, weekly basis, and just generally a bit around the kind of crypto market. So we're going to be doing this every couple of weeks. So you're going to have Lab Talks content every single week. The other week is going to be with industry experts, hosted by Ben. But it gives you a chance to kind of delve a bit deeper into the inner workings of Alkimi.
Absolutely. I really look forward to the LabTech. Gives us a platform to talk about everything that's happening inside the Alkimi Labs, because there's quite a lot cooking in the building, in the laboratory.
Yeah, nice. So that's kind of a summary of like what we're going to be covering in LabTechs. But shall we move on to kind of what we've been up to recently? We've you have in fact have just got back today from a trip to India, which me and Ben were involved on the week before.
Yes.
So yeah, we got to visit the team out there. It's a growing team. There's a lot of very talented people out there helping us build our amazing product.
Absolutely. It's been an amazing trip. I know I posted this on Twitter as well, X, where it was a great experience meeting the team. We used the opportunity to meet not only the team, potential partners, gathered feedback about how people are viewing the product and, the market fit, because India in itself is a great market for us to launch the product in, not just to have a development center there, but also to launch the product, given the scale of things, given the scale of transactions, the number of people accessing the internet, the number of people who are actually being targeted by ads, various things that, make India such a great market. And I think getting that perspective, meeting the right kind of people, getting those relationships going, having those demo campaigns kicking off, all of that, I think is very, very exciting.
Yeah, we were specifically in Mumbai and Bangalore. Mumbai being kind of more of a sort of publishing center, you'd probably say, and Bangalore being a very tech-heavy part of India. So it's kind of the right market for ads tech with those two cities in mind. And yeah, like you said, I think because of the scale of the market, the sophistication of the technology in use in that market, it's also like a really good place for us to be based and potentially have as clients using the products.
Absolutely. Mumbai has always been the commercial capital of India. I say the commercial because, there's a lot of business activity happening in Mumbai, and that's where Bollywood is. So all the song and dance and IPL, though IPL is a little more spread out, some would argue that, it's the home of IPL given the number of trophies that they've won, but I'm not going to get into that debate now. Given that I'm from Bangalore, I should probably avoid speaking about IPL.
Yes,
for very well-known reasons.
Bangalore's woes in the IPL.
But yes, Mumbai is the place to be for anything that's advertising related. And Bangalore is known to be the Silicon Valley of India, where that was the right place for us to have our own development center, ensure that we have the additional bandwidth to develop the products that we want to provide support not only for development, testing, security, penetration testing, operations. There's a lot of activities that I think we can leverage the team in Bangalore for, and I'm really looking forward to scaling that up as we go along.
Yeah, and we've got, over 25 people now in Bangalore. So the team in India is as big as the team in the UK. So it's really like the two centers. And then we have a couple of people in other places. But yeah, as a whole team, it represents half of the Alkimi team. So it was important to go and see everyone. It's very humbling as well. Like everybody was so lovely. We had a great time. We didn't eat any spicy food, which was weird.
Oh, yes, I know. But yes, the big debate of the trip was what family of mangoes is more tasty. Chorley has some opinion about that, but I think we'll probably leave that for a later discussion.
Yeah, it's not Alfonso is the answer.
Anyway, moving on.
I guess the question is like, why LabTech?
LabTech is a platform for us to talk about everything technical that is happening within Alkimi. So far, I think we've been very focused on meeting with clients, especially on lab talks, where we talk to people, get industry perspectives, look at what are the problems faced by the industry and how we are working towards providing a solution to that. What we want to get to as part of LabTech is a view of what is happening under the hood. What are the issues that we face? How do we actually resolve these issues? What are the processes that we follow in Alkimi in order to resolve those issues? We want to have a focus on every technical practice that we have, the technical problems that we have, how we resolve them, and so on. Also want to build on some of the feedback that we've got where people want to know more about the fundamentals of everything that's happening within Alkimi, and a view of everything under the hood, really.
Nice. So we can go down the rabbit hole, as it were, on a few things that are very specific to Alkimi, I guess.
Absolutely. And this is going to be community driven as far as I see it, because we are going to solicit your feedback on what you want us to talk about. We can go as deep as you want us to, right? There are a variety of topics that we are thinking about, but it would be great to hear your thoughts and your feedback on what you want us to talk about as part of LabTech.
Nice. So I guess we can probably start with the kind of state of crypto at the moment. It was the halving a couple of weeks ago, which is obviously a big moment for everybody in crypto. It kind of generally signals the start of what some people refer to as a bull market. There's been a bit of a kind of weird start to it. It started quite early. Bitcoin ran quite well. But then there's been, let's say, a meme coin season. I won't use the other phrase that people use for those coins, but I think it's quite interesting to look at the narrative changing now. There's always that slight nihilism before you start a bull market or just before a halving, where people are looking to make any gains possible, because any gains you make now, you can outsize later on. So there's kind of that, betting on any old thing going, basically. But I think it's quite interesting to see that there is a transition into more utility focus. So real world assets and deep in especially are two very strong narratives that are going around at the moment. And to see that kind of utility piece really be the main focus of what is the point of cryptocurrencies and blockchain if it is not utility, really?
Absolutely. We should move away from using blockchain, crypto, Web3 technologies as a silver bullet to everything. And we should also stop coming up with problems that this solution can solve. And the ideal way to do that is to have problems that require the solution with real world utility. Did I say that okay? Or was that too much of beating around the bush?
That's good. The way I always think about it is the internet adoption happened because of email, really. Kind of people forget that, but that was like the killer app for the internet. It was something that replaced something that everybody used currently, which is the postal service, which is slow and costly, for something that was basically free and very, very fast. So that was like the reason to have the internet and have a computer in your house that you probably used already for other things like writing Word documents or Excels or whatever. But being able to send emails was a replacement for a real world use case that existed. And I think there's not been that thing yet for blockchain. Hopefully that will be Alkimi, but there will be other use cases like that, really. The kind of idea that, it's just going to be money, a different type of money, to me doesn't seem correct, because you already have digital money in the format of like, you can send money from Monzo or Revolut or whoever to somebody else instantaneously, virtually, right? So it doesn't necessarily solve that problem, but there are a lot of things that it can solve, which is that transparency, traceability, auditability, all of those things, right? Decentralization and cost as well, potentially.
Absolutely. And, this is something that we've spoken about as well, where advertising is at the core of quite a lot of things that are happening on the internet today. For example, the content that's provided to any user on the internet is mostly free. And when we say free, it's just that the user is not paying for it. And the popular adage is that when you're not paying for it, you're the product. So the user being targeted with ads in turn being asked to consume content of a certain type is is something that we need to change, especially when the ads are not traded in a transparent manner. And that is exactly what Alkimi is looking to fix. And I think that is one of the key reasons why Alkimi is so well positioned as a real world asset, having its own utility and then providing that utility to the end users.
Yeah, I think a kind of more commonly understood way in which Alkimi sort of operates, but is sort of more obvious to most people than necessarily like adverts on, publications that people read. Most people's favorite content creators, right? The way that they make money is through advertising.
Yes.
Yeah. And at the moment, that is through YouTube, which is a Google platform, essentially. And they will create content that people will view, and the more views they get, the more money they will receive, right? And that is exactly the same, but instead of that content creator is a publisher. But currently, in the same way that it happens on YouTube to those content creators, but it doesn't matter as much because they're individual people. So, $1 million a week, whatever Mr. Beast makes, is a lot of money for one person. But for a publisher, when they spend a lot of time and effort creating top quality content through journalism, through photography, through even just the front end, right, making it very usable, the good UX is not easy to make, and it's Absolutely. Involves people and cost. That all gets paid for through advertising. And that's one of those things that I think people kind of forget. Is like you said, it's like, oh, well, content's free on the internet, but it's like, how is it free? What makes it free? And that is through advertising, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, which is one of the fundamental ethos that we had when we were building Alkimi.
So I think that actually transitions us quite nicely into the next section, which is the switch from nodes to validators. So, we were just talking about the way in which those publishers are funded right now. A lot of the margin is taken from them, right? So the sort of headline figures that you see in reports at the moment is over 35%. I think that is probably quite generous to the ad tech providers. I think that it's probably far higher than that. But in terms of those reports that are carried out by ISBA and the ANA and people like that, that is the only number that they could come up with, because they couldn't even trace most of the impressions, right? So what we have done is built a decentralized system, which previously was working with nodes and now has moved into validators. So do you want to maybe explain the kind of difference between those two things and why we made that transition?
Right. So there were multiple reasons for making that transition from nodes to validators. One of the key things was we wanted to create an equilibrium where there was one type of validator which had multiple functionalities. And the technology that we are currently offering is to be able to make these validators do any kind of processing that we want them to do. Previously, when we were having the master nodes and guardian nodes concept, the master nodes were more processor intensive, while the guardian nodes were more storage intensive, because they were the ones that housed the distributed ledger. Now, by creating a level playing field, any validator can act either as a processor intensive consensus unit or a storage intensive distributed ledger unit. And we want to have that overloaded operation within a single type of validator, where it gives us not only the flexibility to move validator from one functionality to another, but also to build additional functionality that may be required for systems outside of Alkimi itself. So if we do have the additional processing bandwidth within our decentralized network of validators, we are in a position where we are able to offer that processing power to players in the digital advertising field to use that processing power for various things. Maybe it's just reporting, for example.
So it's kind of almost transitioning from a network into more of like an ecosystem, right?
Absolutely that. So we are already thinking about ways in which we can provide a decentralized network of, let's say, pre-bid servers. That's something that we've done before, but now we want to open that up to the network of validators that we have. And pre-bid servers are a very popular processing unit that are used by the ad ecosystem. So that's a classic case where these validators can actually provide value to the digital advertising ecosystem.
Nice. Just a bit of a side quest for people. Pre-bid is essentially how we connect to web pages. So it's a very widely used standard, and it allows, it's known as an SSP, which is a supply side partner platform, and we will connect to that, and then we will get a bid request from them, which we will process as part of the exchange.
Yeah, and traditionally what has happened is these pre-bid servers run on centralized servers, but now there's no need for them to. They can, each of our validators can actually host a version of the pre-bid server software, and that can then take in the requests from the publishers, process them, send them out to ad exchanges, and facilitate that trading of ads, really.
So I guess the next question would really be, what is the advantage to operators in it being more of a flat structure, I guess? So rather than having master nodes getting more rewards and like having more collateral and everybody being on a flatter structure, what's the kind of advantages to that?
There are multiple advantages for the validators. Firstly, we have now normalized the collateral that is paid by any validator. Previously, as you know, master nodes had a different collateral structure to guardian nodes, which had a different collateral structure. Now, by normalizing everything, we've made sure that everybody is on a level playing field. And having the same configuration for each of these validators gives us the ability to use these validators either as a processor intensive unit or as a storage intensive unit. So irrespective of what action or what processing your validator is being used for, you still get to reap the rewards that are generated by the network. So you're not left saying that, I've got a guardian node, so I get a smaller share of the market. The technology has evolved now to dynamically switch from one type of operation performed by the validator to another, so rewards are normalized, so also the collateral. That's number one. Number two is the technology has now evolved in such a way that we are able to use these validators for multiple other operations, like I was saying, the pre-bid server, where that's an additional revenue stream for the decentralized network of validators. So the validators are not limited just to the ad transactions that are processed and stored by these validators, the transactions of the ad exchange, but they can now be opened up to the digital advertising ecosystem so as to get additional rewards from outside of just the Alkimi ad exchange. That's the second one. The third advantage of the validator network is that we are now transitioning from what was essentially a permission network to a completely decentralized network, where we used to have these raffle mechanisms, where the raffle mechanism and the winners of the raffle would be a gating process for somebody to become a node operator. Now, eventually, what we want to do is to open the network up for everybody who has the ability to provide that collateral and then spin up a validator. So it is, in a way, truly decentralized, where we are not controlling who gets to become a validator. And that also opens up the possibility of that processing power being used for things other than the operations of the Alkimi ad exchange itself.
Yeah, nice. I guess as well, it takes away a kind of cliff face that might have happened. So it's like if you've got a guardian node and you're getting rewards, it would take you a very long time to get to a master node, for example. Whereas if you did have a master node and you have multiple guardian nodes, the chance of you multiplying those is a lot higher, right? So for anybody who's like adding to the network and helping us, achieve what we want to, that means that they also have a chance to gain more from it as well.
Absolutely. The scale increases here because with the reduced collateral of 50,000 ads tokens, now more number of people can actually run these validators. So the scale of decentralization of the network increases rapidly.
It felt like quite a good sweet spot between kind of security and openness as well, I guess.
Absolutely that.
So I guess the next part is kind of rewards and like how people will be rewarded now. So we've obviously, we had AOP1, which slightly changed the structure due to, we had a lot of people who were in the liquidity pool, mainly because of the raffle process to get a validator. So we've kind of flipped the way that that's going to work to try and encourage more validators ultimately when we do open that up later on in the year. So we have changed the way that the rewards are divided between those two things to be kind of even based on the number of ads tokens.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's now a linear process where the amounts of ads that are locked up by the liquidity pool and the number of ads locked up by the validator pool directly determine the reward split. So I think it's easier math. It's a fair distribution between liquidity pool, LPers, and the validators. So I think it's only fair that we have that that split, which is fair to everybody.
Yeah, and I guess when we do open it up to more validators, they're actually getting a higher percentage of the rewards as well, because the network will be bigger and their rewards will also be bigger. So yeah, it really kind of rewards validation rather than liquidity pools potentially.
Absolutely. And the liquidity pools are not going away. So any rewards that people make from the validators can directly go back into the liquidity pool, which can then be used to compound that reward. So you get your rewards from the validators, put that into the liquidity pool, that generates additional rewards. So there's a compounding effect, thereby the compounding effect followed by the network being open to the whole community, anybody who can provide a collateral. So each validator generating rewards, going into the liquidity pool, generating additional rewards, getting that 50,000 collateral value, and that can be used to spin up another additional validator.
And currently, if you're a liquidity pool provider and you're staking, you can see those rewards on the Lab platform, right? So
absolutely.
How, I guess, is that going to change in the future?
Well, we are working on reporting dashboards for validators as well. That's something that we were working in Q1, which we were almost ready to roll out, to be very honest with you. But then AOP1 just changed that, and we are now in the process of making some tweaks for the validator reporting dashboards, and they are going to be rolled out in the near future. So we will have reporting dashboards not only for LPers, as you can see now, but also for the validators. We are also working on reporting dashboards for the validators, where they can see the number of transactions that are being processed by each of their validators. They'll be able to see the number of transactions by the network, how many transactions were processed by their validator, their uptime, everything in a nice graphical manner. So that's something that is in the works now, and that will be rolled out as part of Labs V2 shortly.
Labs V2, very nice. Okay, so there's quite a lot of extra stuff coming on Labs V2, isn't there? There's not just that, which is a huge piece of work. I was to say just that, but that is a kind of major piece of what's changing in Labs V2. But there will be a whole new kind of look and feel, right?
Well, yes, there is going to be a completely different look and feel to Alkimi Labs. I don't want to talk about that in more detail, because I just want to keep that under the wraps, where I'm sure people are going to be blown away by the new look and feel of Labs. I'll leave that at that. But what is also being worked on, which will not be seen directly, is all the improvements that we've done on the backend side of things. That's what powers Alkimi Labs. That's what powers the reporting dashboards. That's what powers the soft staking pools. That's what powers all the dashboards that are seen by the publishers, the advertisers, the media agencies, how they're able to get the reports in a certain format that they want. All of that is powered by the backend. Not all of that is actually seen by the community members, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of testing. It's a lot of whiteboarding that we went through. So I'm really glad that that's coming through very well. It's going to make a difference not only to the community members, and Alkimi Labs is seen by the community, but also Alkimi Labs as seen by all of our partners as well.
Yeah, I guess it kind of connects the sort of three parts of our ecosystem, right? So the publishers, the advertisers, and the validators that all make it work are now going from kind of individual blobs into kind of connected ecosystem, right?
Exactly. Also, LP providers, community members, there's something in it for everybody.
Really is a one-stop shop of alchemy. It's going to be great. Probably shouldn't say the word shop, because the people think about the swag store, but So next up, we're going to go to some community questions. We've got a couple this week. The first one is around the life cycle of the token. So how do we go around buying back the token, and how does the use of the exchange by customers feed into that?
So what happens is that when the publishers and the advertisers use the ad exchange, they pay in fiat, because this is how a traditional ad industry has worked. And we want to replicate that working as closely as possible. So it is generally difficult for us to change the ways in which the advertisers and the publisher work. So the process of payment for those ad impressions that have been delivered will happen in fiat, which means that the advertisers will pay in fiat, and a part of that is held by Alkimi as part of the transaction fees. It's somewhere between 3% to 8% depending on the ad format, and the rest is passed on to the publishers. Now, what Alkimi does is to use this fiat to buy back ads tokens. And these ads tokens that are bought back from the fiat generated by the transaction fees is what will be used to reward LPers and validators.
And we're going to be kind of moving that process into an on-chain solution, right? So that people are going to be able to see those buybacks happening. We'll be able to report on those in kind of DeFi dashboards like DeFi Llama, etc., and through our own platform as well.
Absolutely. All of that will go on to Alkimi Labs, where community members will see the transaction fees that have been generated. Again, this feeds into the distributed ledger that we have, where we're working on certain APIs that will be made available to community members. So the community members will have access to a certain set of APIs, which work on the distributed ledger. The publishers will have access to a certain other set of APIs, the advertisers to a third set of APIs. Depending on the role in the ecosystem, each role will be given a certain set of APIs. But what the community members will see is the number of transactions, the value of these transactions, and the cumulative value of the transactions that have gone through the exchange, and the transaction fees that have been generated by the exchange within a given period of time. Now, so from that cumulative value of the transaction fees within, let's say, a quarter, they will also be able to see when and how many ads tokens were bought back and at what price. All of that will be notarized on the chain, and that information will be made available to the community members using our reporting dashboards.
It's great. Yeah, I think it's important for people to realize that the chances of us getting these kind of very legacy, very traditional businesses that have currently struggled with the current iteration of programmatic, let alone kind of what we're offering, the chances of them actually kind of buying holding tokens, at least for now, is very low. So there's not really any point in us kind of pushing that, because it actually makes what we do look more scary rather than kind of more approachable, right? It's like, we all understand the value of it. You know, the people who hold the token out there understand that as well, right? But for those businesses, the fact that we say it's on a blockchain is the kind of exciting enough. Like, we don't really need to add in the cryptocurrency on top of that and kind of introduce them to that world, because it's not even really part of their remit.
Absolutely. One small step at a time. We are changing the way in which impressions are being delivered. Later on, I hope to see people paying for these impressions in a decentralized way. I'm sure we'll get there in good time.
Yeah, it's like that kind of image of the iceberg, right? It's like on the surface, it's kind of like, it looks like everything else, but underneath the surface, everything is different. But we are interoperable on either side, and we use the same systems that everybody uses at the moment, which makes us approachable for these businesses. And once they've kind of got used to the way that we do things and the way that it's different, then we can kind of open up all those extra advantages rather than just the advantages comparing us like for like in the market now.
Absolutely. And with this approach, where all of these token buybacks are going to be notarized on the ledger, it's going to be available in reporting dashboards, not only are we giving access to transparent data, but are also making ourselves auditable. So people can then say, okay, here's how much of fiat was generated by operations, let's say in Q3, and here's how many ads tokens were bought back. Here's the amount of tokens available in the reward pool. They can then see the number of validators on the network. They can see the amount of ads tokens locked in the LP, and hence determine what is the LP share, what is the validator share, what is the APY. So all of that will become apparent to the community members. So you don't really need to ask anybody any questions, but all of that will become apparent to you using the APIs, using the reporting dashboards that will then be made available on Labs V2.
Nice. Forward to Labs V2. It's like, it's going to be really exciting. I've seen some of it, and like you've obviously seen pretty much all of it, and it's being built out now, and it's going to be great to see the community's reactions to that, just because it's
Absolutely.
very, very exciting.
I really look forward to the community's reaction on Labs V2.
So the next question is slightly dark, I guess, but so, was there any moment in which we thought about giving up? I mean, I think I'll start by saying absolutely not. I think we kind of know the value of what we're trying to achieve. Through the bear market, we were just building it anyway, so it didn't really make much difference to us. And I think that we have also got really good validation from the market. I mean, that's kind of what you see in the Lab Talks episodes, is people kind of singing from the same hymn sheet as we are about transparency, auditability, all those things you just mentioned, actually. And I think it really has made it really quite real for me when you see people talking about it, and we see people actually using the network and the ecosystem and adopting it. It's made it, pretty exciting, really. And I think for me personally, I had been into cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology for a very long time. I'd worked in ad tech, and being able to like bring those two things together is the perfect job, really.
Exactly. There's one statement that I actually always say to my team members, which is when you're hit with a problem, there are two ways in which you can approach it using the same statement. You can say, you're given a problem, you can say, what can I do? It's going to fail, right? What can I do? Or you can say, what can I do to make this work, right? That phrase, what can I do, said in the right spirit, can actually make a difference to what the outcome of that problem is, right? So to answer the question, I've never thought about giving up at any point in time. There have, I must be honest, been occasions where I'm like, how am I going to make this work? What can I do to make this work? Who do I need to talk to make this work? What are the different tools that are available to me in order to make this work? So there are all of these questions that prop to mind when we ask the question in the right tone. It's what can I do? Or what can I do to make this work? And that, I think, has been the ethos that we have been working with.
Yeah, I think the size of the opportunity is so big. I think that we're not even close to achieving the full potential of what has been built so far, let alone kind of what will be built on top of what we've built. We always talk about the kind of monetization layer, which is the glue that holds the internet together right now. And then there's like an application layer that's built on top of that, which is things like apps that we all know about, buying platforms, whatever it might be. And we're only at that first stage, and there will be that kind of Web3 version that gets built on top of that. So yeah, it's amazingly exciting. It's like being at the kind of bleeding edge of anything is always exciting, I think.
You actually remind me of the analogy of Shrek, where we always say alchemy is like an onion. There's this popular scene in Shrek where the donkey, Shrek tells the donkey, ogres are like onions. So the donkey says, what do you mean? Do you mean ogres are smelly? So Shrek says, no, donkey, ogres are like onions. Onions have layers, ogres have layers, which is very similar to how alchemy is built. Alchemy is like an ogre, is like an onion, where it's built in layers. You can just take one layer off, put another layer on, you get a completely different product for a different ecosystem, which is everything we've been speaking about, where the decentralized network of validators can be used for the ad ecosystem. It can be used for pre-bid servers, for ad exchanges. It can be used for any other exchange. That is the reason we call it Alkimi Exchange, not Alkimi Ad Exchange, where the exchange is just as good to trade any other asset, whether it's ads, whether it's real estate, whether it's a pair of sneakers, anything. We just need to change the business layer and it will work perfectly well. So one layer built on top of the other, when the topmost layer of the business logic is replaced by another one, it's a completely different product.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we'll wrap up there, but thanks for joining, everybody. And yeah, if you have any questions for us, please go to X, formerly Twitter, as you have to say these days, and put hashtag LabTech and then your question, and we'll give you a shout out and answer your questions for the best ones. And also if there's any topics that you'd like us to cover. So we've got a little list that we're going to go through, but if there's anything that's kind of going down the rabbit hole a little bit on the kind of product and the ecosystem more generally, please let us know and we'll do our best to give you a deep dive. Yeah.
Thank you for all your support and love that you've shown to Alkimi. Honestly, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Keep tuning in, and we'll try and answer all the questions that you have for us. Thank you.
Peace out. A's down.